Once again, a warm welcome to Wesley Impact Highlights. Today we revisit a show from 2014 featuring Aussie icon Olympic swimmer Elka Whalan. Elka joined us as the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow were in full swing. Elka shared some of the emotions, the hype, the pressure of being an athlete, an elite athlete striving for gold across 17 sports in 11 days of competition. She also shares about her own journey of faith and life both in and outside the pool as a Fox Sports commentator. I hope you enjoy her story. Elka, it's great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Look, it's hard to believe that such a small percentage of people who want to succeed in the world of sports do, and those who become sports people, it's an even smaller percentage that get to be in the team, and then it's a minuscule number that know what it is to stand on that podium, as it were.
Exactly, Keith. There are some stats for you. 4% of a nation ever make a national team. 0.9%, 0.09 ever get up on the dais. And once every 4 years, 42 members of our country are chosen for something called the Australian swim team. So the stats are really small. And that was one thing that really excited me to be part of the swim team.
So there's a competition inside yourself when you respond and start doing that.
It is, and I think it's definitely a call on your life. I just knew that everybody in the world is gifted with something, and something that you can do so easily. And for me, when I dived in the water, it was just natural. I didn't need to think.
When did you discover that you weren't just enjoying swimming, but that you had a gift and that maybe you could just push it that bit further?
Well, not for a really long time. I knew I loved it, and I think that's the biggest thing I'd say to everyone. Find something that you're passionate about, and I loved swimming. I was passionate about it, but I never made a school final until I left school, and the first team I actually ever made was the Olympics. So my story was a little bit different, but it wasn't until about 17 or 18 I thought, it's not just my physical attributes, but my mind as well that will get me there.
And in swimming, I hope this is heard the right way, it's a comparatively short career, really, isn't it?
It is. I retired at 24, and
24.
That's kind of, you know, and that sounds so funny. I retired at 24, but it was 7 years for me, and I just knew that was my time, and I achieved the best I could out of it.
And what's the highlight?
The highlight for sure would be definitely competing in an Olympics, standing up on a podium and singing your national anthem, and just feeling so humbled that God gave you a gift to do something like that.
Now, you use the language quite naturally that God gave you a gift. When did you realise it was a God-given gift as opposed to just your gift?
Well, everybody has talents, but I know that the talent comes from, you know, the maker and the creator. And for me, it's always been about giving gratitude and thanks to him. And I know that I wouldn't be where I am right now in my life without God, without Jesus Christ.
But in 2003, you had a heart scare, which we talk about young ages here, and you were a world right up at the top there at the time. What did that make you feel like? What was it like to have that news?
Totally different person to what I am now. I think if I did things back then, if I knew what I knew now, it would be a lot different. I think I really needed a wake-up call and actually realised I had to completely surrender myself to the one above. And I would have, I think, done things a lot differently as well. So, but here I am now, healthy and well.
So did that help to trigger and bring you back to God in a real sense?
It did, in a certain way. It really did. I was kind of at the height of my swimming. And I remember just sitting in rooms all across the countries that we'd be travelling to, and things would be going well and it'd be good money coming in the door and good medals, but there was this feeling of discontentment, this feeling of not feeling connected. And I went to church and got saved, and, you know, 15 years later, here I am.
Look, we're going to talk a little bit further in a moment, but I want to introduce today's performer. Liv Chapman is a local singer who's performed at other Wesley Mission events, including our annual Wesley Life Force Memorial Day at the Sydney Opera House. Since 1996, the memorial service has been an opportunity for people who've been touched by suicide to come together in a spirit of comfort and hope. So here's Liv singing, "My Jesus, I Love Thee."
Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine. For thee all the follies of sin I resign. My gracious Redeemer, my Savior art thou. If ever I loved thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. I love thee because thou did first love me and purchase my pardon on Calvary's tree. I love thee for wearing the thorns on thy brow. If ever I loved thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. My Jesus, my Savior, with every breath I will proclaim your goodness and splendor, the saving power of your name. Jesus, your name. In mansions of glory and endless delight, I'll ever adore thee in heaven so bright. I'll sing with the glittering crown on my brow. If ever I loved thee, my Jesus, 'tis now. My Jesus, my Savior, with every breath I will proclaim your goodness and splendor, the saving power of your name. Jesus, your name. My Jesus, I love thee. I know thou art mine.
Be inspired by Keith Garner's new book, The Authentic Australian Evangelist, Alan Walker. Former Superintendent Alan Walker was once labelled the conscience of the nation, speaking out for the marginalised and the broken across social, political and international debate. Alan's life and work at Wesley Mission is also featured in an address by Keith Garner on DVD. For more information, call 1800 021 821 or visit our website wesleymission.org.au.
Now, if you'd like to know more about Liv Chapman and her latest album, Nothing Else, details are going to be on the website all this week. Now, we're back with former Australian Olympic and Commonwealth Games medalist Elka Whalan. In 2006, then, you happily retired. How old were you when you retired?
24.
And you felt, to some extent, you've met most of those goals that you might have set yourself. What do you admire in sport? What matters most to you in the world of sport?
Character. And definitely discipline as well. You can have great sports people, you can have great sport athletes, but it's how you react to certain situations, how you are on the field or in the water and off the field and you know, out of the pool as well. That really determines someone that's got a great character and whether you're a good sport and a bad sport as well. They're very, very important.
I thought that in the Ashes series last year, that both that series and the series before, both England and Australia displayed the best and the worst in both of them at different times.
It is, and you'll choose to either follow someone, and I always think now having three babies, I want my sons and daughters to look at that person on TV and go, wow, that person is so humble and they've got such a great gift and they lost, but they still shook hands, or they won and they didn't, you know, take it out of context. So character for every person in life is a huge thing that comes from God and comes from your heart as well.
Now that links me on to another point. I know you're doing Fox Sports commentating now, but you're doing something of the circuit of actually going around speaking, and some of that is about character, motivation. What to you is important there? Because I know that, having read a bit about what it is that you do, you ask the question, do you know who you are? And you ask the question, where do you want to go to? Where do you want to be in your life?
Exactly. Well, I mean, the big question, I know big businessmen that own huge amounts of money, and they might not even know how to give a simple hug, or they might know, if you ask someone, you know, so tell me a bit about yourself, most people will answer, well, I work at the bank, or I'm a school teacher. They didn't listen to the question. I didn't ask them, tell me, you know, what you do. And it's hard for someone to say, oh, I'm a mother, or I'm a father, or, you know, what is your purpose on life? And everybody has a purpose, every single person. There's not one person on the earth that doesn't have a purpose. It's what it is they're doing. So
when did you discover the answer for those kind of questions for yourself?
Well, I can confidently say I feel like I am a secure woman because I have Jesus in my heart, and I know for me that life is just preparation for eternity, and I'm blessed every day that I'm here on this earth and trying to encourage people and be the best that I can be, and the life that He's given me. Was there a particular point at which that was true for you? People often talk about the Christian faith because it can be different for people. Sometimes it's a journey that has a culmination. For others, it's a change overnight. Yeah, for me, no, it wasn't a quick, you know, click your fingers and I'm this different person. I was definitely a person I didn't like, kind of around the Olympics time at the age of 18, kind of a lot more self-centred, and then you do grow and you do mature and you travel and you seek different things, and for me that's always been wisdom and really knowing God's word. So it's definitely a combination, and that still happens every day. I'm learning and growing, and I think the moment any human being stops to learn or grow, then, you know, you might as well not wake up the next morning. I think very often that the Christian gospel is overheard or observed by people as much as it is directly spoken to them. So if somebody was just listening to our conversation and they asked the question, what difference would being a Christian make to me, what would you say to them? That they couldn't live their life. I could not live my life without Jesus Christ. Inside me, I have a knowing. It's more than a feeling. I have peace in my heart. I know what life is about. I know that I'm waking up. That life is about relationships and connecting. It's not the paycheck you're getting, and it's not, you know, whether you've lost weight or you haven't. It's waking up knowing that you are loved and that everyone around you, that the spice of life is relationships, from the person that is working at an airport toilet at 2 a.m. in the morning to someone who is serving you coffee. Get to know their name, because that's what life is all about, and everybody has a different gift, and for anyone watching, you're just as special as the person sitting next to you. And the Christian faith to you is important. Does having children change your world? Oh, it's wonderful. I feel like talking about swimming was just a distant memory of my life. You know, I love having children. Being a mum is the greatest. Being a wife is amazing, and I feel so incredibly blessed to say I have a family. But you must have also been alongside people who've been through disappointment. The sports world as much has disappointment as it does success too. It is, and you do. I've had lots of disappointments, and there's been lots of times I've cried, but it's all about, again, character, going back to what we were speaking about before, just getting up and saying, right, how can I do this better? How am I going to be a better person tomorrow? What have I learnt from this? I'm a really big fan that God will keep repeating the same lessons on you over and over again until you learn what the lesson is and move on from it. Elka, we look forward to hearing more from you and seeing you in the world of communication, but also we're delighted you've shared something of the passions of your life and your faith in Jesus Christ. Thanks for sharing with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's been 200 years since the first Methodists met in Australia. To celebrate 2 centuries of faith and pioneering care, CEO and presenter Rev Dr Keith Garner takes us back to where it all began.
But we don't begin here at the heart of London. We begin in a town in the north of England.
In this fascinating narrative, Reverend Garner chronicles the history of the life and times of the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. This fresh and thought-provoking documentary takes us on a journey throughout the United Kingdom, beginning in John Wesley's hometown of Epworth.
John Wesley was born here on the 17th of June, 1703.
This 1-hour DVD travels onto his education years and beginnings of social justice in Oxford, to his final years in London. For more information on John Wesley, the man and his mission, call 02 9263 5555 or email us at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Just as Elka shared, you can reach the highest levels of success in the world only to find that faith and family are the most important things of all. At Wesley Mission, we offer early intervention programs with parents with children from birth to 8 years of age. Let's take a look at one of our family services, Westlakes, north of Sydney.
My name's Louise and I'm the Program Coordinator for Wesley Family Services Westlakes. We actually support families with children under 8 years of age, and we do that in the way of family support, playgroups, parenting programs, mums and bubs groups, and we also do one-on-one home visiting. Generally we're looking at around 40 families a week would access the service.
I heard about Wesley Mission running at the school here through another mother. We thought it was just another playgroup, but we were so surprised when we turned up to have extra support. When I started coming, both of us would often end up in tears. And then my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD, and she became quite violent. And it was just somewhere I could come and let my guard down and be myself.
As Rennie grew older, Erin started to do our parenting programs. So she did our 1, 2, 3 Magic and our Triple P, a positive parenting program, and then a recent one, a reflective parenting program. Through that, we've just watched Erin grow and develop as a mum, and she's so much more confident.
In the 3 years, we've definitely got our confidence back and our sense of humour, and we have a great time now.
The whole objective behind what we do here at Wesley Mission is to provide or help make connections for families in the community, so they've got somebody that they can lean on, someone they can talk to. It becomes like a real family group for them.
The other mothers, we're really close. We all enjoy catching up. We see each other outside of playgroup now. We also understand each other a lot more, which is really important because we've all heard a bit about everyone's story and what everyone's been through. And you don't normally get that in a normal social environment, but in the environment that Wesley Mission provides, you know, the safe, and you can talk without being judged. It's really helped build some wonderful friendships.
I really loved seeing the benefit that the mums have, and knowing that, you know, just providing that little bit of support, it can strengthen them, it can help them be a better parent. We also have partnerships, and one that is a great partnership running at the moment is with TAFE. So the mums are able to enrol in a TAFE course at the playgroup, and they're just building up, you know, back to work skills, so they're gaining that along the way. Without ongoing support, without the community supporting us, we wouldn't be able to continue to do the work that we do here. Families would miss out and they would have nowhere else to go. There is no other service like this out here.
Without Wesley Mission, and especially Louise and the support she's provided both myself and my child, we wouldn't be this happy, strong family unit that we are today. Yeah, life was miserable and you know, it's good. Life's good.
So we're continuing through Matthew's Gospel, and I want to pick up a theme that might be considered a little surprising, as Jesus sent the crowds away. You know, we often hear Jesus saying, "Come to me," drawing crowds to himself, but he also sent the crowds away. Let me read to you just one verse. It's actually in chapter 14 of Matthew, verse 22. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. Now, of course, to understand that verse, we have to recognize that this comes after Jesus has fed the huge crowd of 5,000 people. He'd been followed by the crowds from that event, and although initially he withdrew, we're told he had compassion on them. That's why we read in earlier on in the chapter, verses 13 and 14. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. It was evening, and the evening came, and the need to feed the crowd became so obvious. Everyone seems to be satisfied before Jesus dismissed the crowd. Jesus requires times of solitude, but the needs of the crowd alone left Jesus in a place where he had to reach out to his disciples, but he also had to be concerned about himself. His compassion often prompts him, but there are times when Jesus sends the crowds away. He needs times of rest. I think this is an indication of his humanity. There are many biblical passages that give us insight. For example, at Sychar in John 4, where he sits down at the well with a woman, and then on the cross itself, it tells us he's thirsty. They're all indications of his humanity. Here's another one: the need to be alone, the need to find space. He chooses lonely spots by the lake. And also, of course, we find it in Gethsemane, the winepress, the place where he found time just to be alone. And Jesus chooses the right time, after they've been fed both physically and spiritually. What's all this got to say to us? We should never feel that it's wrong to need places of solitude. How can our devotional and personal lives ever flourish without such moments? There are times in which solitude really matters. Now, solitude is not just being alone. It is a special kind of aloneness. The kind of moments that we see in the gospel of Jesus being with himself are times in which he nourishes and is enriched in the presence of his Father, when together they know what it is to grow. In our lives, we need that every day, of course. There needs to be the times when we say, this is a moment when I'm just going to be quiet, when I'm either going to read the Bible or pray or find times. We used to actually call it, in days in the past, our quiet time. But you see, it's more than just those times. There are times when we need physically to find ourselves in a moment of rest. We need those times when we're making decisions. I mean, we heard from somebody in the sporting world talking about the importance of being up there, doing the very best that they can. But there are times in which you need to be quiet, to prepare, to make decisions, to engage in the fullest sense in the world around us. And Jesus, perhaps we need to remind ourselves that Jesus, in his mission and ministry, was constantly giving out. Constantly people were drawing on the resources that they found in him. So he needed times to be on his own, times to be with the Father, so that he could not just, as we say, recharge his batteries. It's more than that, but really draw down on the resources of the Spirit so he could give out, and so he could be the person that God the Father wanted of his Son. So in our lives, both individually and in our sense of being together, we need to nourish our life by finding times of solitude, times of individual moments with God. How can our devotional and our personal lives ever meaningfully flourish and grow and develop without such moments?
If you would like to know more about today's topic, or for more on Keith's message, contact Keith by writing to Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Elka's story reminds us of that well-known verse in the Proverbs, where there is no vision, people perish. Now enjoy Greg Atwell singing Be Thou My Vision. Next week it's a very different show as we revisit former New South Wales opposition leader John Brogden, as he shares something of his story of overcoming extreme despair. See you next week. Till then, goodbye, and continue to enjoy the holidays. God bless you.